century does relatively large things on what we call guts and faith. We don't have the capacity to do everything. So we selected out specific items that we wanted to follow up on. And there were two of them that were particularly relevant to Newark. The first one was, we were aware that the mayor had called for, in his concept of what is needed to rebuild and revitalize our cities, a Marshall Plan. Well, that concept was very consistent with some of the other calls that have been made, particularly with the National Urban League over the years. I had visited at Harvard University for another session on a completely different topic dealing with police brutality and misconduct, and David Harris, who's here, Professor Harris, who's with us today, had advised that they had been doing some work also on the concept of a Marshall Plan. So there was a certain convergence of ideas coming together about the direction that we might take in terms of Black America in that regard. The second concept was to look at Newark as model city. This concept, which we put forth and we'd like to deal with, and I'll talk about it in just a moment, was the idea that what if we were to aggregate the resources, the considerable resources of Black America, and focus it on a particular city to augment and supplement the plans that were being developed by that city? Because we have considerable resources in Black America, but if we're scattered, you know, it may be dissipated. But if we were to focus on a particular city, we felt that that could be very effective. And so that's what brings us to the table, really, and this extraordinary gathering. We think it will be extraordinary. Sometimes things are providential. We actually wanted to do this last year. We didn't have the capacity to do it last year because, again, we're a very small organization. And so it took us to get to this year in order to make it happen. When we scheduled it over these days, we were not aware that it was the 50th anniversary of the martyrdom of Dr. King. Oh my goodness, look what we've done. We are astraddle a historical event. We were going to do it over this date previously, but that would have been 49. This is the half-century mark. And then Dr. Sandika told me, and I guess he'll refer to this, and I wasn't aware of this, it's also the 70th anniversary of the actual call for Marshall, this very day, 70 years ago. So sometimes, you know, we say in the church, the Lord works in mysterious ways as wonders to behold. So we might just be treading on sacred space in terms of what's possible. What I'd like to do now is, in terms of this overview, I'm actually going to go to my message. And rather than extemporized, I reread it this morning and said, well, brother, don't mess it up, just read it. So I'm going to take a couple of quick minutes and just roll through it. Because first and foremost, I do want to express profound appreciation to all of you, all the resource persons who have taken time out of your very busy schedules to participate in this potentially milestone gathering, which is being convened in conjunction with the 50th commemoration of the martyrdom of our beloved Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. While commemorations are certainly important, we in IBW felt it imperative to add substance to this occasion by focusing on the practical application of the work of Dr. King that he was engaged in at the end of his life. We believe that Dr. King would have been in accord with the renewed call for an urban Marshall Plan to provide massive federal support for the revitalization of urban inner-city communities devastated by decades of disinvestment, deindustrialization, and blatant neglect. And so the Marshall Plan Symposium will outline the rationale and principles for such a bold initiative and the urgent need to spark a multifaceted national movement to demand that the Congress of the United States act to make it a reality. In addition, the symposium will offer practical ideas about how urban Marshall Plan initiatives can effectively be implemented creatively, utilizing existing local, state, and federal resources. The Economic Summit is also very much in keeping with Dr. King's conviction, which he expressed during his mountaintop speech, that Black people should utilize our existing resources, what we have in our own hands, to buttress the internal economies of our communities. African Americans have an obligation to utilize the enormous human capital and the nearly $1 trillion of income at our disposal to consciously and intentionally focus on building our communities. It will take the large-scale investment of public dollars and a determined effort to maximize our resources to create wholesome, sustainable, humane, and safe communities. We assembled in Newark because of the history of struggle, resistance, and resiliency, and the righteous quest to transform long distressed, depressed, and marginalized neighborhoods, indeed the entire city, into a model for people-oriented and people-centered community economic development. A major goal of this gathering is to aggregate human and material resources from Black America to complement and supplement the development plans and strategies which have been devised to achieve this vision under the leadership of a progressive African-American mayor, the Honorable Raj J. Baraka. During the town hall meeting tonight, where Danny Glover will be our special guest and keynote speaker, we want the people of this city to be inspired by your presence, the presence of this extraordinary group of leaders who have come from all across Black America to support the concept of Newark as model city. Let's give it up to the mayor who's now arrived. So that's all I say this day when he came in the room. While we gather in Newark, in a broader sense, this targeted approach has potentially far-reaching implications for how community economic development specialists, urban planners, policy analysts, community-based advocates, and political leaders devise strategies for the revitalization of distressed and marginalized communities in Black America. This is particularly important in the face of the growing onslaught of gentrification and the ills associated with it that threaten to liquidate Black communities around the country. Therefore, the Newark Initiative may mark the beginning of an approach and process that could be replicated nationwide. And I really want to stress that in terms of what we're here to do. In that regard, we are blessed to have among us leaders from the PICO National Network's Urban Strategies Program and the Reinvestment Initiative of the Center for Community Change, coupled with leaders from the Black Wealth 2020 Initiative, FraserNet, and the amazing talent, experience, and expertise represented by resource people who have come to Newark, all of you. There is the potential for a powerful collaboration that could contribute to transforming Black America in a manner that could make Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King proud. Each of you, everyone at this table, is a valued resource person with something to offer to
You'd have to change the diopter in order to see it in focus. Here.
Okay. It's a focus because it's
Let me explain. This, don't worry about this. Worry about this.
oh, I look at here is focus. I look at the number down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Yes.
If this isn't focus, you're set. Now I'm going to change it for me.
Yeah, this is focus.
But doesn't it still look dark to you? It
No.
looks a little gray. Well, that's because the background is gray. Okay, excuse me. Let me see. I'm going to change it again for me, okay? Yeah, well, it's a dark one. All right, now look at this one again. But this looks great.
Yes.
But this one maybe needs to be brighter.
Yes. Because this one more white background. That one doesn't.
Right.
You want I stand there?
Oh, wait. Go ahead, fix it. Look. Oh, no, it's good. That's better. Now that was